analysis of the private security guarding industry in Kenya.
These guards must have a clean criminal record. Like they must not be involved in criminal activity. You must have acquired a secondary education. And some look at height. For some reason, height is a thing for security.
Okay. Hello and welcome back to the Crimeshield Podcast, where we keep it security and safety every single day. And today we're going to touch on a topic that is very critical. And this topic is the analysis of the private security guarding industry in Kenya. So we're going to look at it very critically, highlighting what's good, what's bad, what's not so good, And to help me dissect this topic is none other than Madam Arshley Susan Wanjiku. Karibu sana.
Thank you, Kingsley.
How are you feeling today?
I'm feeling great and I'm excited about what we're going to be discussing. I'm super excited to be here and thank you for having me.
Thank you, Ashley. Probably just a brief introduction from you to tell our viewers who you are.
So my name is Arshley Susan Wanjiku. I'm a corporate security consultant. And what I do is that I provide my advice and expertise to organizations to help them implement effective security systems and also adapt good security risk management practices.
Amazing, Ashley. And this topic is very critical. I remember when we were talking and we're just looking at the security space and seeing what has been happening, looking at guards. Guards are people who, for lack of a better word, are overlooked. People who, are looked as, second-class citizens. And yet they're doing an amazing work of just making sure that the assets are safe and secure. And today I just want us to take time and look at the good things that have happened in the guarding space with specificity to the guards as individuals, and looking at how motivated they are, how they can, make themselves better. And to start us off, probably, in my understanding, guarding plays a major role in the security industry. Because as you're saying, in the corporate space, when everybody's out of the office, the people who are left behind are basically security. A majority of them are guards. So with the evolving threats that we see each day, what can you say in your opinion? And we'll discuss this, that are things that are happening currently in the guarding space. What are the things that probably you've seen that you've noted happening in the guarding space? We're talking about the human element, how they going to, their posture, how are they going to operate on their own, the caliber of training that they have, what you've observed. Probably just in brief, you can tell us what you've seen.
All right. First, I want to say that a private security guard is ideally a business whereby companies provide private guards to interested organizations or proprietors of business or individuals who require security for their residences and properties. And what they do is that they provide these guards, they provide trained professional guards.
Okay.
All right. So it's a service that's being provided from a commercial point of view.
Okay.
And why this service is important and why guarding service is important is because, one, it is a critical element when it comes to creating a security function.
Okay.
Now, when you're designing security, you're supposed to take a holistic approach.
Okay.
And for you to do this, you need to incorporate four main elements of environmental design and hardware. That is the hardware and technical systems.
Yeah.
And you also encompass the procedural systems and the human element. Now, guards fall under security personnel and they fall under the human element.
The human element.
All these elements have to work together in synergy for you to actually have a guarding function that works and that is being beneficial to your organization in terms of managing the security risks that an organization may be facing. The other thing that guards do, and why guarding is a critical aspect in our lives, is that due to the enhanced security risks and threats that we are seeing, security threats are getting evolved, and insecurity is getting heightened. It's enhancing.
Yes.
Because of the changes that are happening. For one, we are seeing economic hardships, enhanced economic hardships.
Lack of jobs,
lack of unemployment. And I think it's gotten worse after COVID pandemic.
Yeah.
We see a lot of people, we saw a lot of people lose employment. We saw a lot of economic hardships start to rise because a lot of businesses were closed.
Yeah.
There was a global economic impact, and everybody felt it.
Yeah.
So this enhanced insecurity. The other thing that has enhanced security and threats is that the independence of the digital independency. We've gotten very dependent on digital stuff and technology.
Yeah.
And I think this happened a lot. It was there before, but I think during COVID, we tend to have used gadgets a lot.
Yeah.
Because we were probably in isolation most of the time. So it was a good distraction for us. Well, that had its pros and cons. And the cons being that now, with the digital dependency, cyber threats have evolved. All right? Cyber threats have evolved. And guards come in to help businesses mitigate against some of these cyber threats.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of issues we have with the cybersecurity. Usually, the threats come in through software infiltration, but sometimes the cyber threats can also come through the hardware, the computers, the laptops, and the phones. So the guards. The guard implements stringent access control measures to ensure that these gadgets are being company hardware is not moving out of the company unauthorized for misuse.
Yeah.
And and unauthorized hardware is not coming into the company to be used to infiltrate the technological systems within a company. So guards play a role in implementing strategic access controls, like in main gates, in main entrances, and all that. Now, the other critical area where guarding comes in and why guards are important is because they complement the technical systems. Now, sir, we tend to feel that at one point guards will be irrelevant. Technology will replace them. But no, probably the numbers will reduce, but you still need the human element.
You need the human element.
You need the human element because we need the technical system, they need the human input to be operated, to be monitored, to be maintained.
Yeah.
And the guards we are having right now are guards who are trained in basic technical know-how. They know how to operate some of these items. They know how to operate and how to monitor a CCTV. They know how to respond to an alarm system.
Yeah.
They can understand the types of alarms that are there.
Yeah.
So they help and work together with the technical systems.
Amazing. You brought a very critical point, Ashley, and you talked about the human element.
Yes.
In the cyberspace, they say that the human factor is the weakest link is the human factor.
True.
It is we, the people on the ground, who can actually take in malware to to our computers, the work computers. And at the end of the day, we are the only people who can be coerced into giving information through phishing techniques, where people, for lack of a better word, advertise their stuff and they say, "Hey, you can win a car by spinning the wheel." You've seen such kind of things. So you find that if at all there are policies that are very well implemented by the guards who are there, by, let's say, an institution says that you do not have to live with company equipment, let's say the laptops, and they are, implementing and enforcing the policy by not allowing anybody to go with the laptop or hard drive, for that matter, then they play a very critical point. And it's very true what you're saying that, the human factor, when it comes to guarding, they might reduce, but we indeed require, human presence, because now who will be able to now digest that kind of information or prevent it after getting that information from, let's say, the CCTV. You need the human factor to work on it. So at the end of the day, what we're looking at here is that the guarding industry and the guards, for that matter, are people who are very critical. Let's look at packaging the security services. What have you seen so far in the guard industry? What are your thoughts? How are they packaged when you're talking about the recruitment and their selection? Have you seen so far with the current security companies?
I'll mention that, and thank you for asking. But I want to add something that we may have left out on the previous topic. Why it's essential why it's important to have guards. Why it's important to have guarding service. Insurance. When you're a business and you want to partner with an insurance,
Yes.
As a way of transferring
Your risk.
your risk. Actually, all security companies, they need to know that the business they're insuring is not very much exposed to risks, security risks. And they will want to know that you have already adapted some of the baseline security measures. And guards is one of them. So they compel you, it's precondition, they compel you to outsource private security guard so that you can actually, as a strategy to mitigate against some of the security risks that your business may be having. Now, to go on to that other question, the current packaging of guards in the private sector, it's quite the procedures and operations are quite different because remember, this is a commercial space and we have different companies that are providing these services to clients, but the basic process incorporates guard recruitment and selection. This is the first step. And what companies do is that they put down a criteria of what's required for recruitment. The guards that they are recruiting, what are the basic requirements for both female and male? All right? And the mandatory requirement, which it cuts across all the service providers, is that these guards must have a clean criminal record. Like, they must not be involved in criminal activity.
By getting the certificate of good conduct.
By getting the certificate of good conduct. And the other thing they require as a mandatory requirement is that you must have acquired a secondary education. And you must present a KCSE certificate as proof that you have actually completed the high school level education. And they give a minimum mean grade requirement. You must have attained a mean grade of D plus or C and above, nothing below that. And because communication is important in a guardian role, they insist that you must be fluent in Kiswahili and in English, all right? And you must be fluent in talking and in writing it, because you will need to write down when it comes to some of the guardian documents and reports and all that, which we shall cover much later. And some look at height. For some reason, height is a thing for security.
Okay.
And and they like to keep it standard. So some companies will say for a man, for male, you need to be 5.8, 5.7 feet tall and above. That means you have to be tall. And for ladies, probably 5.2, 5.1. because they want to have that uniformity in height. And also you must be physically fit, and you must be of sound mind, and you must be between 22 and 35 years of age. So those are like the basic mandatory requirements. A lot of companies put in their selection criteria when they're recruiting. Now, when you meet those requirements and the company takes you in, the next step is training.
Okay.
You're trained. And when it comes to training, there's a set training course. All right. Probably a few years back, the course was different in different security company training schools. But right now, I want to believe that we are having regulated standards in training, and the training is much more improved, and it consists of a critical area of security management. So usually service providers train these guards for a certain period of time. Good training shouldn't take less than 2 weeks. All right. So training consists of the physical training, which is tactical. It includes the physical drills, running and all that, because that's why you need to be physically fit. And we have the knowledge training, where you're trained on access control, searching procedures and processes, and you're trained on you're trained on access control, you're trained on searching, and the physical drills come in as well. You're trained on soft skills, on how to communicate with people. You're trained on customer service, and then, because as a security guard, in most cases, you'll find yourself being a first responder. You must be trained on first aid. And you must be trained on fire emergency, okay? Because you need to know the basics so you can be a first responder. And then as threats evolve, another area that's becoming mandatory in training courses is terrorism. All right. You need to incorporate. So companies incorporate that in their training. Guards are trained on how to detect terrorist activities, the types of terrorist attacks, how to respond to them, how to detect terrorism, activity, and how to respond to it. And in case of an actual terror attack, as a guard, how do you respond to it? How do you do crowd control? How do you evacuate? That kind of thing. That is what most training schools incorporate in their training. After training, the guards are deployed, all right, to their various assignments. And obviously, when you're deployed, you got the training right, but you need to be oriented. So you go and find senior officers on the ground and supervisors who orient you on how to start doing your job. And
commensurate to that site now.
Exactly. Exactly. It has to be commensurate to that site, because every site has unique needs. All right. The instructions may differ, and after you're oriented, the company that has hired you has already commissioned the process of vetting your background. All right. And this is where your previous history is checked. Where were you working as a guard? What were you doing? Your background, your history, and where are you from? Where your residency? Who is your chief? You even need to draw a map in some cases, because they need to be able to find you if something happens. And also the testimonials. Who can vouch for you? Is there a pastor in your village who can write a letter
and say that
and say you are a good person?
Say Kingsley, I've known him.
Exactly.
Or I do not know this person.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So vetting usually takes a period of say 3 to 6 months.
Okay.
All right, and sometimes that is where even good conduct certificates are applied for.
Okay.
You know, and as a guard, when you get that clean bill that you don't have any. You don't have anything criminal record.
Yeah.
You continue working. Your employment is you pass through the probation period and you actually become a permanent employee of that company. So that is how the guard packaging basically happen, and that is the basic of it. Obviously a lot happens and it varies within the different companies. You know, but the packaging of the guard is a very critical process because it affects the end product. The end product is the guard you giving a client to provide the service. So you need to make sure that the end product is properly cooked. It's not half cooked.
Yeah.
If you miss out on one of the steps, then it affects the end product, and you find that the performance is interfered with.
Yeah.
The service delivery is interfered with because there's a step you missed, or there's a step you compromised on.
Yeah.
So it has to be well done. It has to be a thorough product. It has to be thoroughly done. And even when you finish packaging the product of the guard, you need to continuously, as the guard continues to work and as the guard is in your employment, you need to continue doing something we call refresher courses. Don't just forget about it when you give them basic training.
The threats change all the time.
You need to keep refreshing. Plus, again, assuming a guard has worked with you for, say, 10 years, and the only training they've received is the initial training, won't that guard get complacent at some point?
They will be.
And also, what refresher courses do is that they empower them, they motivate them.
Okay.
And again, you get you as an employer, you get the opportunity to train them as per the evolving threats. Like the risk of terrorism. As terrorism evolves and as better ways come up and better strategies come up on how to mitigate against terrorism as a threat, you're able to incorporate that into your training syllabus, and you're able to refresh them and upgrade them, and you bet to
get them up to speed with
get
what
them
is
up
going
to
on.
speed.
You're talking about the packaging, and we've all seen packages, sweets, chocolates being packaged. Let's talk about the kitting. Kitting of these guards. I've seen unique companies having very unique kind of the kitting. So I think kitting is also critical when you're packaging these guards.
It is.
Because you find that how they dress really should match the kind of work that they do.
Definitely, definitely.
Yeah, I've come across guards who, it's mandatory for them to put on sweaters. I don't know, that comes to the policies. But it's hot, Or those who are required just to have their shirts. And probably it's cold, So I think also packaging can also encompass kitting.
That is true.
Yeah, so
that is true.
Guards are people who, ideally, it's an entry level into any security space. And, what people fail to understand is that these people who work as guards, most of them are learned. I know of people who started off as security officers, guards, people call them guards, but they end up even having masters. And, it is through talks like this that we can be able to, celebrate them and also show them how, they stand out and be counted by just taking their time and making sure that they are, they practice whatever they have been taught, at the same time continuously develop their skills. So how can stakeholders pretty much, increase their value and standards, to make sure that their guards stand out in order to meet the threshold? Let's look at what is happening currently. What have you noted with the guards currently? What stakeholders in Kenya have done? All these companies, what have they done to make sure that their guards, stand out, in your opinion?
Yeah, well, first and foremost, it's a very competitive industry, all right? And we are finding a lot of proprietors venturing into the industry.
Okay.
So one, there's competition. So as a service provider, you have to do your best to stand out. You can be complacent. So like you mentioned about the kitting.
Yeah.
You know when you kit the guard properly, it gives you the opportunity as a service provider to make a first impression.
Yeah. Even the self-esteem of the guard.
That guard is representing you, and how they look matters.
Yeah.
So when you're kitting them, make sure the uniforms are in good condition, and you're giving them at least 2 pairs of uniform. Okay? Because sometimes, like the wet season, surely you're giving a guard 1 pair of uniform, and it's raining and it's cold. How do you expect that guard to present himself clean and to be a good representation of your business when he's always ungroomed and in unclean uniform? So give them at least 2 pairs of. They should get at least 2 pairs of uniforms. They should get a sweater. Some companies make that optional, but it should be mandatory. They should get a sweater when it's cold.
Yeah.
They should also get raincoats when it's raining. And those that work at night, they should get special coats for the cold.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know whether you've seen those coats.
Yeah.
They wear at night. They're
The
usually
they're thermal coats.
Yes,
yeah.
yes.
They have a lining inside. Yeah.
Definitely, because at night it can get very cold. They should also have proper gumboots. They should have the military boots they wear on a daily basis. And then they should also get the gumboots when it rains.
Yeah.
They should also get umbrellas. So it matters as a company, when you're packaging your guard, incorporate good kitting and good quality kitting. And when they wear out or when they're torn and all that, make sure that they are refurbished.
Yeah.
So that your guard can always look smart. So also, it becomes a win-win as a service provider. You're not only having a good image out there, but also you're motivating your staff. When you wake up and you know you're getting into a clean uniform to go to work, to an assignment, it motivates you.
Yeah.
But when you know you're waking up to get into a dirty uniform or torn uniform, it really demotivates you as an employee. The other thing service providers can do to enhance their standards is make sure that they are being very realistic in their cost analysis. I feel like some service providers, especially in guarding, go wrong in cost analysis, and they end up struggling to keep their water above, to stay above water.
They compete being the lowest bidder.
That is the thing. Like when you look at the guarding rate, when a service provider is providing a guard package, a guard rate, what they charge for that guard per shift, that rate they're giving a client, it incorporates a lot of things.
Yeah.
It not only incorporates the guard's salary, but it also incorporates other operational costs. That is where the salary of the guard regular reliever is going to come from. That's where the salary of the annual reliever is going to come from. That's where the salary of the supervisor comes from.
Yeah.
That's where the salary of the management staff comes from.
True. Even
Vehicle,
vehicles,
fleet, fuel. So have a proper cost analysis so that you don't compromise on a lot and end up affecting the performance of that guard. Also, continuously keep reviewing and monitoring your cost. See the areas that you can improve on.
Yeah.
See the areas you can absorb. Some of those costs you probably don't need.
Yeah.
Some of those resources you can probably optimize and maximize them.
Yeah.
And you can be able to control your operational costs so that you don't have to minimize on the most important things like training,
Yes.
salaries,
Yes.
and all that. And the other thing is aim to get profitable assignments. Okay? Sometimes I think service providers lose track of what's important. I don't think it makes any sense for you to have 2,000 guards out there or 5,000 or 1,000,000 guards out there being seen in all your different assignments.
Yeah.
And in the real sense, you are having them in unprofitable assignments. What I mean by unprofitable is this assignment, the rate that you're charging is too little. Too little.
Even to sustain them.
Even to sustain you as a business.
Yeah.
The garden business, the private garden business is cutthroat. It's very cutthroat. If you're not careful with the costs, you will really struggle, especially paying these salaries. You will really struggle. So you better have few assignments, but they're profitable.
Yeah.
They're profitable. That means you've rated properly, you've charged properly, and the charge you've provided the client is enough to sustain your business operations without compromise. All right.
Yeah.
And when you take that approach, you can be able to enhance your standards
As a stakeholder.
As a stakeholder, all right? You can be able to enhance your standards. Now, the other thing is, as a service provider, it is very difficult to get those clients because of the competition.
Yeah.
So when you get them, have a retention policy. Have a customer retention policy.
Yeah.
Aim to retain your clients. Invest in a customer retention policy, which entails having a customer care function. Okay?
Yeah.
There should be a system of communication. When there's an issue, how can customers communicate to your office?
Yeah.
So that these issues can be addressed. When these issues are addressed, how are they actioned upon? How long does it take for them to be actioned upon? Are we getting back to the client? Is there a follow-up process? That is what that function does. All right? So we should invest in that. It will enhance standards. Otherwise, if you're very quick to close in on clients and convert, and then move on to the next client and you don't care about the one that you got, you're going to lose them. And it also affects on your standards.
Yeah.
Especially operational standards. A lot of the issues as a customer, you have a lot of issues. You might have an administration complaint, a billing complaint, an operation, but most of them are operational.
Yeah.
Maybe the guard came late, or the guard doesn't have uniform. Most of them are operational.
Yeah.
Or the guard is not going on off. Why is the guard not going on off?
They are from January to January.
That is the thing. And these are issues that can be addressed quite quickly. But when you close and run and leave the customer there struggling, you lose that client. Yeah. So have a customer retention policy. And also have a guard's retention policy.
The churn rate affects both sides, both the guarding services, provider, and the client as well.
True. If you're not investing in retaining your guards, you're going to lose as a service provider. This is because you're investing a lot, training this guard, kitting this guard, orienting this guard, and then you're not putting in much to sustain him and keep him there.
Yeah.
So what will happen is that chances of you having a high turnover are very high. Okay? Your guards won't be lasting. And by the time the guard leaves, you haven't even earned back what you spent training him and kitting him and deploying him, okay?
Yeah.
So when it comes to guard retention policy, incorporate things like have like a reward system for your guards. Have incentives, performance incentives. When a guard performs well, acknowledge it, give an incentive.
Yeah.
Make this like an annual thing.
Yeah.
At the end of the year, look at the performance of the guards. Give them a little bit of something to appreciate them.
Yeah.
Even if you don't give it in form of certification.
Yeah.
Best employee award, those kinds of things.
It really motivates them.
It really, really motivates them, all right? And then the other thing you can do is that make sure that these guards are seeing beyond the guard role within your business. Let them have hope that in years to come or in months to come, they can grow within that company or they can grow within your business and be something else. They can move to different departments. They can be managers.
Yeah.
So promote these guards from within. Appraise them, appreciate them, train them, and let them grow from within the company. Because sometimes retaining them isn't so much about the money.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, salary is important, but sometimes even the environment you're working in matters. So create a conducive environment, make them feel appreciated, grow the levels of loyalty, and they will work for you for a long time.
Because
And
they love, the working environment.
exactly.
We've talked about the stakeholders. Let's also touch a little bit about the clients and then trickle down to the guards themselves. What can you tell the clients, these people who give the guarding services, the jobs?
For the client, for standards to be enhanced, it's all rounded. Everybody has to do their part. It's not just the service providers. Everybody has to do their part. And the client is an important stakeholder. So what a client needs to do is, first and foremost, have professional boundaries. Okay? When you outsource contracted guard services and they are deployed, maintain a professional boundary. Don't cross that boundary. Like, what I mean by having a professional boundary is making sure that you are not forming friendships with these people. Like, they are there to work. That's their office.
Yeah.
Don't turn them into buddies, into friends, because at that point the professional line becomes blurry. This is now when a guard will start telling you stories of domestic issues. They'll start telling you, I need money, give me 1,000 shillings or what kind of things. Yeah. So maintain professional boundary. It's very important. Number 2, pay for the services in time.
That is a very important point.
Pay for the services in time. Actually, this is one area where I don't think requires credit term period. The way we are used to being provided a service on a credit term. No. Because what happens is, when service providers are doing their billing, the invoices are dispatched at the beginning of the month. Actually, most customers get their invoices between 1st and 5th. Yeah. That's how it's supposed to be. Yeah. All right? And the reason why you're getting that invoice early enough at the beginning of the month is because the service provider requires you to pay in time, so that this payment can be used to pay that guard at the end of that month.
Yes.
That payment can be used to meet other fixed and operational costs.
Yeah.
So when you're sitting on an invoice as a client that goes to a credit period of 60 days, that's 2 months. Some even go all the way to 90 days, 3 months. Surely, as a client, even if you are running a business yourself, is that reasonable? No, it's not. So make a point to pay for services in time. Don't push and pull with a service provider of a payment. Just pay in time. And that is why you find that service providers are very aggressive when it comes to debt collection.
Yeah.
Utalipa that is an area even the owner of the business does not smile about. You need to pay and pay on time.
Yeah.
And sometimes customers don't understand. Why are these guys so aggressive in collecting payment? They're always calling me, doing emails. Why? It is because they need it.
Yeah.
They need it.
Yeah.
So pay it in time. And if for one reason or another you are not able to pay it in time,
communicate.
Be courteous enough to communicate and let them know when you are expected to pay. And when that time comes, pay. Don't then start stories again. Okay? The other thing customers need to do is that when you contract guard service and the guard has been deployed, ensure that you are having service review meetings with the service provider. Okay? Yeah. Have meetings. Have meetings when don't just sit and call them when there's a problem.
Yeah.
You can probably have a meeting at every 2 weeks or a meeting once a month.
Yeah.
Have with the person representing that area where you're having. There could be an operations manager or a branch manager. Depending on the way the management is structured. Yeah. Have a review meeting, a service review meeting with them. That way you get to review the performance of the guard. What is happening? Are there areas that you feel require improvement? And if they're doing a good job in that review meeting, tell them. Okay, appreciate what they're doing, all right? So these review meetings are very important. And this is one area I think some clients lacks. They're a bit relaxed on this. They don't have meetings. They don't have meetings. And when you don't communicate, a lot goes wrong.
Yeah.
And also service providers should initiate these things. You should initiate these service review meetings. You should have them as often as possible and build a good rapport and build a good relationship with the client. So that is another thing that customers should do, and it is very important.
What about the general public?
Now, about this area of general public is now where we need to sanitize. We need to sanitize the narrative.
Because what the guards go through out here, from keeping secrets and washing cars, you name it. The perception from the general public really baffles me, in my opinion. I think guarding job is a job just like any other.
Yes.
And as I mentioned earlier, that these guards are, could be your brother, could be your sister, could be your friend, your cousin. And they're people just like you. It's only that by virtue of their obligation as guards, they're in that place at that particular moment.
True.
Nothing on this world is constant. And times do change. So does, the perception of people. And when we're talking about the perception from the public, I think, in my opinion, it is high time that guards really get the respect they require.
True.
Sometimes when people are getting into these places that, have security guards and they need to be searched, some of them refuse. Some of them talk down upon these guards. In my opinion, I don't think that should continue. And, this is a message for all of you out there. If you ever look down upon guards, there are better ways that you can correct them if you see that they are wrong. Reach out to them or reach out to the company that they work for. But what I've been seeing over the time that I've been here is quite messy, for lack of a better word, because we do not really engage these guards in a professional manner. We look at them as people who, do not matter. And yet, they're the ones safeguarding your $1 million assets. Your life is already priceless. While you're sleeping, they're there, watching over your house. So probably I would like to know the perception, the general public perception. What is the general public supposed to do with regard to guards?
Okay. It's quite unfortunate. The narrative is very stereotypical and it's very negative. And I think it comes from a point of being misguided. All right? I think, we know some people even call guards watchman, askari. But actually, even now, we're not calling them guards anymore. We call them security officers. Yeah. The thing is, it's a very noble profession.
It is.
All right? And we have very many learned men and women in this profession.
Yeah.
And actually, a lot of them are even graduates. We have a lot of graduates who, when they're looking for work, instead of just staying home doing nothing,
you get an entry-level kind of gig.
And if you can pass through the recruitment process of a company that is taking on guards, give it a try, all right? And keep yourself busy. And who knows, you might actually have a serious passion for the security industry, even if you are a graduate in a different course, Yeah. And also, we have a lot of NYS.
Yes.
Men, ladies, and gentlemen in the private security sector. Now, these are women and men who are they're learned, they're intelligent, very smart people. Why do you want to demean them when you find them at their place of work?
Yeah.
I think it's just a negative narrative which we need to sanitize, and we need to definitely change the narrative, because it comes from a place of being misguided, and
Yeah.
2, I'm sorry to say, a place of ignorance.
Yeah.
Now, what the general public needs to do is, 1, they need to respect the profession. When you go to a place and you find a guard, and that guard is doing his job, he's following instructions, and it's all been backed by his professional training.
Yeah.
If that guard requests you to
a
provide,
search.
to open your handbag, to check the contents inside,
Yeah.
don't start giving them an attitude or start demeaning them. Cooperate, comply, because he's doing his job. There are instructions that have been prepared and created for that particular assignment, and he's supposed to search like that. He's supposed to open that handbag and check whether there are contents inside that are harmful, you know.
Yeah.
And if he requests you to open your car, your boot, and he wants to do a screening, kindly cooperate and comply. Let him do his job, because I definitely don't think there's anybody out there who is working would want another person to come and interfere with their work.
No one.
Doesn't matter what you do.
Yeah.
You wouldn't want somebody out there to come and complicate your job.
Yeah.
So try as much as possible to give them that courtesy of cooperating. And just let them do their job. And 2, don't demean them. This thing of demeaning has really gotten to a point where now guards are compelled to even work with an attitude.
Yeah.
You know, that attitude of
It's a
now
ripple
you
effect,
you are in my office.
Yes.
You will know who I am.
Yeah.
And you find a guard is actually, because it's his office and you're trying to demean him, he will show you, you will know that this is my office and you will respect it. You know, they've been compelled to behave in that certain type of way. Yeah. But ideally, their profession is critical and important. And like you said, they are busy working in your businesses to secure your assets, to make sure that you as an employee, you're safe.
Yeah.
And the risks, the security risks that might affect you have been mitigated. Then cooperate with them and be good to them. Don't demean them. And this is something else. It actually makes the issue of security culture important. You know, it's something we need to enhance security culture within businesses.
Yeah.
And because I think if you're working in a company where there's no security culture, even out there, when you go and come across a guard, maybe at a mall or wherever it's at the bank, you'll still have that attitude.
Yeah.
But if your place of work, security culture has been intertwined with your day-to-day procedures and activities, it's become a norm, a thing of the norm, then even out there as an employee, you learn to appreciate them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The same way you'd like yourself to be appreciated.
True.
So I want us to jump on a plane and go global. So how can we then make sure that we can be able to match the standards globally, pegging on what we've seen happening? And there's a lot of improvements that we've seen. You know, schools have been, incorporated to train guards on the aspects that you talk about, fire, counter-terrorism, you name it. What are other things that can be done to match the global standards? In my own thinking, I have a few, and I want to look at one very critical one, which is stricter regulatory oversight. They might say that it's already strict, but I want it stricter. So if you ask me why, I'll say it's because every person right now wants to open a security firm. It's not bad. But are they willing and ready to pay the price of running or managing the security function? Or is it just business? So I feel like a majority of people who come into the security guarding space or the security industry, they have a notion that it is the quickest way to make money.
True.
It's not impact driven. And that narrative for me, I think, through stricter regulations, which currently PSRA is doing, will enable to filter out the people who do not want to create that positive impact. Because change has to be inclusive. So it's a give and take game.
Yeah.
When you find companies just opening up and then at the end of the day, they do not have the security culture in themselves, you'll find these are the companies that do not have standards even during recruiting. They do not have standards when it comes to vetting the kind of guards that they bring. And as a ripple effect, you'll find that the caliber of guards who work in the companies will not deliver. And that causes, that attitude where many people look at guards as second-class citizens.
True.
Or people look at them as people who do not deserve, their attention and care. And forgetting that they are just people like you and me. It's only that they are doing that duty that has brought them there, and that is guarding services. So I think stricter oversight can really help in the sense that, yes, we have the policies, we have the procedures, standard operating procedures are put in place, but how do we then enforce it? So I think everybody has a role to play, starting from the stakeholders. That means the guarding companies, they guard themselves. How do they carry out themselves? Because as a guard as well, you need to look at yourself as a noble person, and you're doing a job just like any other. So if you as a guard already looks down upon yourself, then at the end of the day, that is the kind of picture that you'll paint for everyone. So the general public will also look down upon you. And you say that the training encompasses communication skills. And, through that, you're able to understand that if that security guard can be able to communicate better, then we can be able to avoid a lot of miscommunication. And then at the end of the day, we are causing more harm than good. So for me, if we are able to, make the oversight more strict, and just making sure that from time to time we're able to improve it. It will take time, of course. Rome wasn't built in a day. But I think for me that is one point that I just wanted to get out of my chest.
Actually, if you can look back to say 10 years, 15 years ago, and compare that time to now, I'm sure you can see that the industry is making steady improvement and steady growth. I will appreciate the government's effort because in 2016 we adopted the Private Security Regulatory Act. And through that act, the Private Security Regulatory Authority agency was formed. It's a state agency, and their core responsibility is to make sure that the private security industry has been legitimized and it's been regulated. Years back, we used to have a lot of briefcase companies. Like you said, a lot of proprietors used to run and jump into the business venture with a commercial mindset. For them, it was just about
business,
making money. It was just business. But what PSRA has come to do is that it's come to regulate the industry. And in that regulatory act of private security, it has also allowed for proprietors of these businesses to actually come together and form what we call private security associations. Now, PSRA leads in the process of regulating standards of these businesses. And they are doing a very good job because when you apply for the license, your license is valid for 5 years. But it's supposed to be renewed annually. And the reason why it's supposed to be renewed annually is because it is renewable with a condition. It's preconditioned. Has the company, the service provider, done something in breach of the regulations? If they have, is this license going to be renewed? No. So what this restriction does is that it actually keeps these providers on toes. The other thing is that The private security associations that are formed under the Private Security Regulation Act, they also come in as another level of making sure that the standards are maintained by their members.
Okay.
So if you're a service provider under this association, then they also have a role to ensure that the way you're running operations in your business, the standards that you're maintaining conform within
The act.
and the regulations that PCRA has put in place.
Yeah.
So there's that dual control and dual monitoring that is going on.
Yeah.
The other thing we have a union that's called the Kenyan Nation Private Security Workers Union. And what it does is that it actually it partners and collaborates with business owners, like the owners of these guard service businesses or services, companies, to actually make sure that they are maintaining good welfare standards for guards.
Okay.
So these unions champion that. They make sure that the guards are getting the basic wages as per what the state has put in place. Like currently, the minimum wage for guard is 15,000.
Yeah.
It used to be 13,000, and then it was increased in 2022 after Labor Day by 12%. It is still at 15, but I wouldn't be surprised if there are providers out there who are paying less than 15.
Yeah.
So the union comes in to make sure that these companies
You know,
improve on that, and if they don't, then the union comes in, right? The union also comes in when there's issues of treating the guards badly.
Yeah.
Sometimes like when they're working at night, like some of these companies post the guards in very unsecure locations.
Yeah,
Before you as a company, before you deploy a guard, you have to do a survey and actually confirm that the welfare of the guard is not going to be compromised and the security of the guard is not going to be compromised. All right, that assignment has to be secure on its own. You do not just because you're bringing a guard doesn't mean that the security is compromised. No. Because you don't want to deploy a guard in an assignment that is high risk and that something happens to that guard. So the union comes into play. You also need to make sure that the guards are deployed in areas where there are washrooms. Where are they going for washrooms? Are they getting their breaks for lunch? Those are some of the things that the union looks into. Are these guards going for leaves? So as a guard, if you're a member of the union, you have a right to complain to them, and they can now come and partner or make a follow-up with your employer so that these standards of welfare and performance can be improved.
Wow.
Yeah, and also, I don't know whether you remember, but about 2 years or so ago, they took, the union took... they took an initiative to actually compel workers to improve on guard standards by coming up with something they call a collective bargaining agreement, a CBA. And actually, some of these service providers have agreements with the unions. They have a CBA agreement. They have a collective bargaining agreement with the union that actually agrees upon the standards that they will uphold towards the guards in terms of their welfare, in terms of their salaries, in terms of their safety, in terms of their health insurance and all that. Okay? And for clients, I think it's very important for you to ask questions like, as a service provider who I want to outsource, are you having a CBA agreement with the union?
Yeah.
Because if they do, then then that is a service provider who cares about their guards.
Yeah.
And they don't compromise on the standards, and you will probably enjoy the service.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing, Ashley. This is a very huge topic. I know we haven't covered much, and we'll have a sitting, as I told you, just to cover a lot of things. I'm sure we have left out a lot of things that are really burning to our viewers out there. but at least we've gotten our viewers thinking, from stakeholders to the clients,
Yeah.
to the general public. They
Yeah.
now know and understand the importance of having a security guard
True.
and treating them to the kind of dignity that they do require.
True.
So for you out there who has, any question or any comment on this topic, we'll carry on with this topic. I told you we'll have a panel at some point, and we can be able to deep dive into items like the technological advancements,
Yeah.
the public-private partnerships, community engagements. There's a lot. Thank you so much, Ashley, for finding time, to come and join us in this podcast. And it's indeed impactful. Right now, I'm sure everyone knows the importance of treating their guards right, from the stakeholders to the guards themselves to the general public. It's important for you out there to understand the importance of treating the guards right, and it's also important for the guards to understand that their job is just as like any other, equally important, and they need to have that self-esteem to wake up every morning or every night to make sure that they safeguard your premise. Thank you so much, IQQ Eat, for sponsoring this video. IQQ Eat is a company that trains chefs. It also provides food for your event. If you have an event, you have a wedding, you name it, IQQ Eat got your back. Keep it Crimeshield and see you next time.